rise like the day began. Reach out and touch with the Savior's hand. On rock we stand like his native land. Let the ways of love be the ways of man.
Well, yeah, I think the song is a special, really beautiful song written by Diane Warren and myself. I wrote a verse that I rap. Andra is the artist that embodied the song and took the song to new levels and just made it something like really spiritual. The song already had certain things. It just spoke up for humanity and life. But I think the way what she conveyed through the vocals was
powerful.
Yes, very powerful, and I felt, it was something because we had a talk before she even went in the booth, and it was a spirituality in Andra that I was like, wow, this is dope. I mean, we were really talking about real stuff about God, and I felt that higher purpose really came through what she did as an artist with the song, and the song is really just that. It's about awakening the God in us. It's awakening the purpose that's in us, and us being able as human beings to go out and make things happen on this planet for positive things. So I'm super, super excited and honored to be a part of the song and for it to be a reflection of Thurgood Marshall and his legacy and what he's meant to people in America and the black people. I'm just, this is one of those things where I'm like, yo, thank you, God. I'm in the right place at the right time,
Yeah. That's definitely exactly how I feel as well too, and obviously being a part of telling his story and honoring his legacy was amazing, and like he said, the same like spirituality, the same relationship with God that I brought to it, he did too, and like as I feel he brings to all of his music, which is why I've been such a fan, and so. Being written by Diane Warren, working with him, honoring Thurgood Marshall, and just like he said, you just feel aligned. You know what I mean? Like you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. And I couldn't have said that better. Like that's exactly it.
So the film Marshall centers around an earlier case in Thurgood Marshall's career. He is the lone lawyer for the NAACP, and he is sent to Connecticut to defend Sterling K. Brown's character, who was accused of raping a white socialite woman. But in the film, the judge tells Thurgood Marshall he cannot speak in the courtroom, and his second chair, Sam Friedman, played by Josh Gad, is the only person allowed to speak in the courtroom. Oftentimes in the black community, our experiences are only then considered true when white people say, you know what, yeah, this is what happened. Dallas sports broadcaster Dale Henson just recently spoke up and said that if you take issue with the president having harsher words for Colin Kaepernick than those in Charlottesville, there's an issue. Michael Rappaport always takes to Instagram to defend those who have been marginalized. Common specifically, what do you think needs to be done for black men and women to say this was my experience and for the world to believe us?
Well, I think we, first of all, I want to give thanks to the people who are talking about their experiences and are courageous and going out and not only just telling people about their experiences, but doing something about their experiences. Like if we want to take one of the most popular examples now, Colin Kaepernick is a great example of somebody who said, the people's experiences are, what I see going on is wrong. And I'm going to make a statement no matter who is offended, and I know why I'm doing this, and I know what the results that I want to see, and I'm going to go out and put my money where my mouth is and go out and not only sacrifice potentially my job and career and millions of dollars, but also I'm going out contributing money to the community and going to the communities and having Know Your Rights campaigns. So I definitely want to cite the examples of people who already are showing what we are going through, and I think it's so many other women and men that do it and fight on the front lines and even behind the scenes. But I think, one of the things, the most clever ways I've found to have other human beings understand your struggle is to tell stories that just are humane. I think Moonlight, the film Moonlight, was gave people an example of what they never seen black people, a gay black kid, a thug, people who people would consider a thug, wearing a do-rag, but he was taking care of that kid in Mahershala's character. I think when we tell stories that people don't get to see us in, that helps. Art has a real effect upon some of these things. And then some of it is just, it is the responsibility of other nationalities to say, hey, this is wrong what's going on to black and brown people. We got to do something about it. It's going to take some of those people, the white folks that live in around the white folks that's acting like white supremacists, to say, hey man, this ain't good, this ain't right. You got to sometimes hear from your own people in your own community for you to honor it. But I think we're doing some things, and I want to acknowledge that. And I think that as we could keep telling our stories and just tell humane stories and put love out there, they're gonna have to respond to it at some point. If they, and I ain't talking about just love, passive love. I'm talking about like
the verb.
Yeah, that's right.
The action.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
So, like I said, Sterling K. Brown's character is accused of raping a white socialite woman. History has shown us that whenever most times, not all the time, whenever a white woman accuses a black man of something, is guilty until proven innocent.
Yes.
Emmett Till.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And there's always this rush to protect white women that isn't always given to black women.
Right.
You know, the missing girls in D.C. last year, Kanika Jenkins right now that we're talking about in Chicago. As a black woman, how does that make you feel, and what do you think we can do to show the world that, yo, like, I am skin and bone and blood as well?
You know, well, first of all, I think I would say that it as a black woman, it makes you feel like you're exposable, you know, that you're expendable. I'm sorry, that's the right word. That you're expendable. I would say that, but I don't allow it to make me feel that way. I think the
How do you not allow it to make you feel that way?
You know, for me, it's a spiritual thing, and it is my relationship with God. I know my value, and I know why I'm here, and I know my identity, and so I hold on to that as I go lobby for women's rights, for black women, for our image in the media, and but you're absolutely right. You know, oftentimes we are not considered a treasure the way that oftentimes white women are in this country. And, you know, I think it's also because there are a lot of images of us in, you know, in media, in entertainment that show us in a negative light. And I think, you know, the way to get over that, first of all, is to be confident in our own identity and who we know we are, and we have to know our value. But also, you know, I'll use this as an example. When I watched Hidden Figures for the first time, I was crying uncontrollably. And, you know, I remember my boyfriend asked me, oh, what's wrong? And I said, listen, you know, I know that you love women. I know you respect women, but you won't ever understand what it's like to be a black woman. And why are stories like that in this country suppressed? Why are there always images of women being catty and fighting and, you know, they cause drama and saying negative things and disparaging remarks about each other, you know, but we don't see more images of these women were responsible for getting this country into space. You know, why is their story not told along with the story of our country making it into space? And so I always said, you know, if I was a young girl, like as a young black girl, what it would have done to my mind to know about these women, to know that they exist. And so I think we need to tell more stories like that. We need to tell more stories like the story of Henrietta Lacks. We need to, you know, not just tell the altered narrative that makes, you know, prejudice and segregation and Jim Crow and lynching seem more tolerable. We need to tell the truth, but the truth can't just be negative and victim. It needs to be about the stories of success and victory that our communities had. And I think as a community of women, oftentimes we're also told or led to believe that there's only one spot for us, one spot in leadership, one spot in corporate America, and it's completely false. And I think we need to stop believing those lies and stop approaching each other as competition and instead approach each other as community and a sisterhood. Once we believe it and once we start acting this way, it'll force other communities to treat us the same way.
That was such a great
Oh,
answer.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was a great answer.
She was talking. I was like, wow, that's really
Right.
powerful.
Oh,
Like,
yes. 95% of high
My
fives
sisters
are
and I talk
warranted,
about
but
this
that
a
was good one. What did both of you guys learn from Thurgood Marshall? Like I know him.
Right.
Like
From
I
the
know
homie
him.
Thurgood, you
The
know what I mean,
homie,
right?
The big homie.
Well, for me, it's one of those reminders. You know, no matter what our hero, no matter how great our heroes are, they still are human beings, and I like seeing that because it gives me an opportunity to be like, oh man, these flaws I got, I still can be as great as the Thurgood Marshall. You know, because he liked to do some of the same things I like to do.
Such as?
Drinking. So you know, it was just for me. It was just seeing seeing somebody in a, you know, you see the person in all their dignity and greatness, but it's still seeing them in some of their most humane moments. Like, you know, I'm going back, rewinding back to when I saw Dr. King in the movie Selma. When he was sitting getting challenged by his wife, by Coretta, it was like, man, that was a human moment. Like, and those are the things that watching, you know, Thurgood and seeing Marshall is like, that's the thing. I like seeing human beings. So, you know, that's what I could say I've learned from him, and obviously the dignity and intelligence and courage he has, you know, it just reinforced it for me.
It's so funny that you brought up Dr. King because I went to the Selma Junction and Ava DuVernay, she, you know, the director, shout out to Ava. She was just like, she said that, you know, she wanted to show that Dr. King was more than just 4 words. He was more than just, I have a dream.
Right, absolutely.
So what did you learn from Thurgood Marshall?
What I learned from, oh gosh, so much. But, you know, as it pertains to this film and this particular case, you know, oftentimes we fight with peaceful protests. We fight, you know, protesting, lifting our voices and, you know, shouting our issues and our struggles and our complaints. And what I love, I can sum it up like this because Reggie really says it best. He said Thurgood taught us.
The director.
Sorry, I should
Yes.
say that more. Yes, Reginald Hutton. Yeah. Who directed the film, Marshall, he summed it up best where he said, Thurgood taught us not to beat the system, but to be the system. So don't try to beat the system that's not for you, that's against you. Instead, change the system, become the system through which we operate. And so he was, you know, the prime example of that. And, you know, yeah. There you go. That's it.
I'm not going to give the end of the film away because it's a spoiler and it's a sweet spoiler.
Yes.
But before Marshall finds out that they won the case, he gets sent away to the South where a young boy is accused of killing a police officer or shooting a police officer, and that young boy ends up getting killed. The first person I thought of was Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, if Thurgood Marshall was alive, do you think he would have won the case against George Zimmerman?
Whew. Girl, that's heavy.
I mean, my hopes and beliefs is yes. I mean, some of the realities that exist in America, Florida, some of these states that the state where that happened is the people obviously didn't see fit, and I don't know if, no matter how good a lawyer is, could they have defeated the bigotry and the hatred and the racism? Because, you know, so many cases that have proven that black people were innocent, proven that these officers should be sentenced to prison, and it's still, you know, blatantly just was not the person is proven not guilty, like, and it's like,
or not even indicted,
right? So it's like, my hopes is yes, Thurgood Marshall. I would like to believe that, but I also have another perspective that's like, man, we fighting this racism for real, and it's a deep rooted thing that we gotta like pull. The same way we working on ourselves, we gotta pull it, you know, and they gotta take responsibility and pull it up out of them, you know, the deep rooted racism. So
yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, but I would hope so, that Thurgood would have done it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I agree with him in that I hope that he would have been able to do it. But at the same time, I do think back to before he became, the first Supreme Court justice, when he was battling many cases in the South, the case actually in Florida that he essentially lost multiple times, even in the Supreme Court. The 4 boys that were accused of rape, and they ended up being murdered. And so, I don't know. Yeah, I'm hopeful that he would have won the case, but at the same time, the issue is that, right now in this country, it is easier for people to send morally, in their mind, in their heart, it's easier for them to send somebody who's black or brown to prison than it is to send a white person. Now, when there's a white person involved and, oh, he's a security guard.
Now we got to wait for the facts.
We got to, because this is a life on the line, but it's always a life on the line. And that's really what we have to change, is people's mentality. And that's, the equality isn't just about the justice, but the equality is in people's minds and in their hearts and how we're perceived. And so, yeah, I would hope, same thing, I agree with him, I would hope. But, it just goes to show that there's a lot more work in the realm of perception, before even the courtroom, All
right, so my last question should have been my first question. My last question should have been my first question, but how's your heart?
Ooh.
How are you feeling?
Yeah.
You want me to go? My heart is feeling hopeful.
Yeah, that's
and I have a certain joy. My mother always tell me, joy is not always the feeling that everything ain't perfect, but it's something that inside you that knows things are the way they're supposed to be. And that's what a joy that I have, looking at the state of what's going on in the world. Something inside me feels like, because I'm a believer in God, and I'm also a optimist, so I just believe that the best is being brought out of us in the darkest times. And I'm talking about the people who are people of love and children of the Most High, and people that are aware, not even from one specific nationality or one specific religion or gender. I'm just talking about the people as a whole are awakened at a level that I haven't experienced in my lifetime. And I think it's bringing us all together to not only have conversations, but to put ourselves out there, to make moves, to do things, and be more respectful to each other and be more considerate of each other. And you're going to always have, we on the planet of Earth, you're going to always have some negativity and hatred out there. But I think, from the immortal words of the great Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high, is the real philosophy that is just true. If you stay on your higher self, it's like when somebody when people come to you and they start trying to argue with you and you just don't even give them that energy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's that's how we got to be as a society, that for the people who want to move in a good direction. It's I'm not giving my energy to Donald Trump. I'm not giving my energy towards white supremacy. Of course, if it comes in my space, then I got to do what I got to do to defend myself and my loved ones. But I'm thinking about, how am I going to help the people out here? How am I going to help people in these communities that are being overlooked? How am I going to help the people that's in prison right now that need prison reform and rehabilitation? How am I going to help the educational system? How am I going to spread God's word? That's what I'm focused on. So my heart is joyous in that way, and inspired and hopeful.
Same.
Ditto.
All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Bye.